Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, all that types of stuff. Throwing a little bit of television, a little bit of some other things there, too, here and there, and away you go. You just saw the new logo. I don't know what. I just decided to put the new intro logo in there today. That, of course, is the new logo for the upcoming move to the new studio. And I can tell you this, the new studio, we're launching the show in the new studio on Friday. Friday's the day. It is the day, this Friday. And it's good that we're going to do it on Friday because it gives us one day to do the show. And then we can... we have then the weekend to make any adjustments and the weekend to do any kind of stuff. So Friday is when we launch in the new studio. I just thought I'd throw in the new intro there for you guys. And, well, you can see the new logo. You can see at the top of my YouTube channel, we put in the new logo there too. So we're slowly transitioning things over. But anyway, we're not here to talk about all that kind of stuff. We're here to talk about movie stuff and a little bit of television and all that types of good stuff. So let's get things started with this. Tom Holland is a damn good Spider-Man. I think we can all agree on that. Whether or not Andrew Garfield's your favorite or Tobey Maguire is your favorite or whatever, I think we can all agree Tom Holland is a pretty damn good Spider-Man. Now, we know that for some reason, even though Spider-Man is dead, they've been making a Spider-Man Far From Home movie, and guess what? They ain't shooting it anymore. Tom Holland took to his Instagram, I believe, today to announce that he is now wrapped. He's done. It's shot. Spider-Man Far From Home just now goes into its finishing stages in post-production. And what's really neat, too, is we've seen some of those pictures that have been coming out from the set of Spider-Man Far From Home, giving us a look at the new Spider-Man costume and all that kind of stuff. I like them, all that kind of stuff. But now, I guess since those leaked, Tom Holland was free to put out a picture because in his Instagram thing, he put out a picture of him and Zendaya standing there. And of course, that gives us another good look at the new Spider-Man suit. I just hope it's not another Iron Man Jr. suit. I hope it's just a legit Spider-Man suit and that they leave it at that. But that's me. But anyway, Tom Holland wrote on his Instagram, "That's a wrap. Hashtag Far From Home." And you know, there's a word I started using a while ago when talking about these kind of mile markers that you hit with certain movies. And the word that I kind of made up was the tangibilization. Like, we've all known that a Spider-Man Far From Home is coming. We've seen some set pictures. But there's something about Tom Holland getting on social media and saying, hey, it's not a theory, guys. It's shot. The movie's shot. And there's something about when a movie that we're all looking forward to hits that stage that as a film fan, it just kind of becomes more real. You know what I mean? Now, of course, hearing that Spider-Man Far From Home is wrap shooting, at least Tom's wrap shooting, it re-bubbles up those questions we have. How the hell are they doing a Spider-Man movie with, "I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. I don't want to go." Don't worry, kid, you're not going to be gone for long. You're going to be back next year. So anyway, how are they going to work this all out? These are questions that I'm sure are going to get answered in maybe a little bit in Captain Marvel, but definitely answered in Avengers 4. And then we will hit the ground running, completely minimizing the effect of any of those big, powerful, emotional scenes in Avengers 4 because they're all coming back. But still, it is really cool to see these pictures. Again, I just like this suit, man. Like, it's not the traditional. I would prefer the traditional red and blue, yes, but I dig the suit. I do. Just lighten up the black a bit and it's perfect. But other than that, I think the suit looks good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this movie. I'm excited about it. I loved Homecoming. So let's see how this one turns out. Okay, with that little item off the top, let's go now into our main topics. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? It's really quite simple. You guys select them by emailing them to me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Email me your topics and questions to john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less, or else I just won't even read them because I wouldn't even be able to fit them on the screen even if I wanted to. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to the first email. And the first email today comes to us from Vic Brown, who writes, I know you said you were a big fan of the show Grimm. I was. When it was on TV. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on the news that NBC was developing a spin-off series and if you know much about it. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Vic. And yeah, look, you guys know I don't have time to watch a lot of TV, but there was this little show, and we all have these shows that we know aren't the best shows, but for whatever reason, the shows strike a chord with us, right? They just resonate with us and they work for us, even if we know they're not all that great. For me, Grimm was one of those shows. I watched the first few episodes and I just really got into it. And I stuck with it all the way through. Was not thrilled with the final season. It was clearly very rushed, like they realized they were ending the show at 6, and it felt like they found out at the last minute that they were ending the show after season 6, and it felt very much to me like they kind of rushed through. And so I wasn't a big fan of the final season. But that aside, overall, I really liked it. I liked the mythology. I liked the world. I liked all that kind of stuff. For those of you who don't know anything about it, and not a whole ton of people watched it, but basically, you got this guy, Nick. He's a cop in Portland who discovers he's actually a descendant from the line of Grimms. And Grimms are these basically supernaturally empowered individuals who can see Vessen, mythological creatures that hide as human-looking creatures. And throughout the centuries, Grimm have killed and fought off Vessen and all this kind of stuff. It's really cool mythology. And they get hexen beasts and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, the show came to its conclusion last year. And now they're talking about, there are these reports that Vic is talking about, that NBC is looking at launching a spin-off series, and it's not a reboot. And unlike some other spin-offs that just ignore everybody from the originals, it sounds like they're going to bring some of the original characters back too. Here's what it said in the report. I believe we got this from Deadline, who wrote, "The untitled spin-off will center on a female Grimm. Per NBC, building off the mythology of the original series, the new show will feature returning fan favorites while also introducing new characters, new dangers, and epic new mysteries. I hear no actors are currently attached, but the idea is for the offshoot to feature some original cast members, regular or recurring." I love that idea. Now, it's not going to be Nick, because the actor who plays Nick, he's got another series already lined up, so we know he's going to be good. But maybe guys like Monroe, the werewolf who kind of becomes his best friend, maybe his kids. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there. Now, the idea of it being a female Grimm is not new to the Grimm thing. The Grimm before Nick was Nick's mom. So Nick's mom was that Grimm, and then it kind of passed on to Nick, and Nick became Grimm and all that kind of stuff. So having a female Grimm there is not all that bad. Look, here's the thing. The thing that got me into Grimm was their handling of the mythologies. I thought it was fun, and I thought it was interesting, and the way they kind of took traditional mythologies, utilized old stories and old mythologies into their shows, while also taking some creative liberties with them, I thought was creative and really enjoyable. If they're going to do that, like for me, the show didn't revolve around Nick, although Nick was great. The show didn't really, the heart of the show to me wasn't Nick per se, it was the mythology of the show. So if they can move on now and continue just exploring that mythology in the same kind of way, at the same level of quality, I'm all on board with this. Another interesting little note about Grimm. His love interest was a character named Juliet. The woman who played Juliet was great, and she's going to be now Lois Lane in the CW Arrowverse crossover. Because remember they announced they were going to have a Lois Lane in there with Superman? It's actually going to be the actress who played Juliet in Grimm. So there's a nice little tie-in there. So yes, I'm looking forward to it. I'm curious to see how it turns out. And if it's a waste, oh well. If it's good, perfect. All right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next email today comes to us from Eric Benoit, who writes, "I'm not what you'd call a live theater guy, but I have seen a few live shows with my wife over the years, and one of the shows I really enjoyed was Cats. I'm also a big Idris Elba fan, and I just saw that he was joining the Cats movie. I'll be honest, I didn't even know they were making a movie until now. I'm in." All right, thanks a lot for the question, Eric. And yes, absolutely, it has been revealed that Idris Elba, as of right now, it's not closed, but he is in final discussions for joining the upcoming movie Cats. Cats, of course, is arguably, well, without any doubt, it is easily one of the biggest Broadway smash hits of all time. I can't remember. I think it ran for like 20 years or something stupid like that. Anyway, they have a number of people on board with it. It seems kind of a no-brainer that you would do a feature film version today with it. One of the really intriguing things about the film is who's directing it. And it's actually one of my favorite directors. It's a guy by the name of Tom Hooper, who directed one of my favorite films of the last 10 years, The King's Speech, with Colin Firth. I love that movie. Like, I lost my mind over that movie. And Tom Hooper is the guy who brought it to us. Then he also did really, really good films like The Danish Girl. He did Les Mis, which I really enjoyed. And of course, King's Speech, for which, by the way, he won the Academy Award for Best Director for King's Speech. But it's not just him being involved. Listen, this is a cast for this Cats movie that is really shaping up nicely. Like, if we take a look at it, yes, we know about Idris Elba. Taylor Swift is somebody they announced a while. Obviously, this is a musical, so getting somebody like Taylor Swift in there is not that surprising. We got Ian McKellen, who is like a master of stage. Again, since it's a musical, you get Jennifer Hudson in there, an Academy Award-winning actress, Jennifer Hudson. And just because every musical today seems to have to involve James Corden, who is great in musicals, is obviously going to involve James Corden as well. Look, this is a huge smash hit, a cultural icon, totally recognizable IP, an Academy Award-winning director, and a really nice cast shaping up. I mean, look, this is pretty much a no-brainer. Now, this hasn't been confirmed, but I'm seeing some people run the story that Idris would actually play the villain. And gosh, haven't we ever seen Idris Elba play a villainous cat before? You know, obviously Jungle Book, but... So look, yeah, mark me down. Look, if you had just said to me, John, are you interested in a Cats movie? Comme ci, comme ça. But directed by Tom Hooper, with Ian McKellen, Idris Elba, Jennifer Hudson, I mean, lining that up, suddenly I go, okay, this could actually be pretty damn good. Yeah, sign me up. I'm on board. What do you guys think? Are you interested at all? Are you like me, that maybe the idea of a Cats movie didn't interest you? But now that you're seeing who's directing it, who's starring in it, does that increase your interest for it? Jump down to the comments section and let me know what you guys think. All right, let's move on here to the third email. And the third email today comes to us from Daim Chowdhury, who writes, "Hey John, how are you? I'm doing good, thank you so much. Have you seen the Elseworld Arrowverse crossover poster? If so, can you explain it to me, because I don't know what's going on anymore? It's weird seeing Stephen Amell as the Flash and Grant Gustin as the Green Arrow." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, my Twitter blew up yesterday. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw your Twitter blow up as well. When Stephen Amell, who I think is great in Arrow, he put out on his social media this poster with the words, "My name," remember, this isn't Grant Gustin, it's Stephen Amell. "My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive." That's what he tweeted out with this poster of these guys like this, which is hilarious. Now, what's interesting here is that CW has already put out promotional work. Remember, we talked about this just a couple weeks ago. They put out some promotional stuff showing Stephen Amell as Green Arrow, as he normally is, showing Grant Gustin as Flash, and of course, Supergirl. So I don't know if this is a start to finish Elseworld kind of story. I don't know if this is a crossover that starts in the regular world and then something happens and causes this whole mix-up sort of thing. But I'm telling you what, it is really fun seeing these guys. It's great seeing Amell in the Flash costume. I like seeing him in the Flash costume. Seeing Grant Gustin in the Arrow costume too is also really great. Now, it's not the only image coming out from this Arrowverse crossover this year that came out that's got a lot of people talking. A picture kind of came out the other day showing, of course, Stephen Amell, Grant Gustin, and oh, look, Superman in the black costume, which probably should have been our first clue that this was going to be an Elseworld kind of story. This probably should have been the first hint that he's in the black costume. I will tell you this, though. It is pretty hilarious to me. And no offense intended. Believe me, no, I'm just saying I chuckled a bit, right? No offense intended to anybody who felt this way. Please understand. I mean this in not in an offensive way at all. I'm just saying from where I'm standing, and it's kind of funny that I had a bunch of people tweeting to me saying, with the picture of the Superman in the black costume, saying, you know what, John, I wasn't interested now, but seeing him in the black costume, this is going to be awesome. Because of the color of the costume, now this is going to be awesome. Because the costume's black, that's going to make this incredible. I don't understand that logic, but maybe I'm just missing something. A lot of you guys did. Look, I'm sure they're not doing the, where the black costume came from. I'm sure they're not doing the death of Superman with Doomsday, and then he comes back to life, comes up, but I got to fight off the cyborg. Anyway, I'm sure they're not doing that. To me, this looks like a hell of a lot of fun. One of the great things about this whole Arrowverse thing and their annual crossovers, and I mean this honestly in the most complimentary, best way, because I really believe this is great. And this is one of the advantages of the intelligence Warner Brothers showed by separating their movie universe from their television universe. I've always said that's the way to go. Screw this. Everything has to be a shared universe. Screw that. Screw it. I've always thought Warner Brothers was brilliant for making sure they kept their television and their movie universes separate. And we're seeing this, something like this is a manifestation of the benefits from that. Look, CW does not take these shows all that seriously. We know that. That's part of the charm. That's part of the fun. And that's part of the success. And because they've taken that philosophy, because they've taken that approach with their shows, they can do fun stuff like this that gets us all excited. They can do fun stuff like last year, Crisis on Earth X. That was fantastic. That was a hell of a lot of fun, that Crisis on Earth X. Because of and it's only possible because of the fundamental decision they made to keep their television universe and their movie universes separate so they could have creative freedom and creative flexibility without being bogged down, in the continuity in the movie they do this, so we can't do that in the TV show. Separate it. And this is the type of thing you get when you keep them separate. Look, who knows? The Arrowverse crossover this year could suck. It might, yes. But it's really cool that they do fun stuff like this, and I'm looking forward to it. I really don't care that Superman's in a black costume or not, but seeing that they get to play with these sorts of ideas, I think is great. And like I said, it adds to the overall charm of the whole universe they set up. And I enjoy dwelling in that universe, even when Arrow sucks. And it's been turning it around. But it's just a fun place to be. I finally saw the season premiere of Flash last night. And which sucks because my friend Erin Cummings, who was here in studio with me, remember I did that 2-part interview with her just about 2 or 3 months ago. She was the main villain in episode 2. And I still haven't watched it yet because I had to get caught up and first watch the season premiere. But anyway, I'll get to that a little bit later. Anyway, it's a cool looking thing. What do you guys think about this Elseworld approach? What are they going to do with it? I have no theories whatsoever. Do you guys have any? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know what your theories are. All right, let's move on to the final email of the day. And the final email today comes to us from Juan Diaz, who writes, "Greetings, John. Longtime fan of yours." Thank you so much, Juan. My question is, with the new report from Variety that Warner Brothers is moving on from Ben as Batman and Ben wanting to do another film, could he star and direct his own Batman movie in this new DC label that Joker is being made? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And first of all, to get to the second part of your question, no. They're not going to, Ben's not going to write and direct a new Batman movie to be in the Joker. No, just Ben's Batman is already the regular universe Batman. So no, they're not all of a sudden going to confuse things even more and say, oh, the guy who was there is also over here. They're not going to do that. But let's get to the whole report out there again. This was a report that flew under the radar for a lot of people in many ways because it wasn't the headline. There was a story that came out the other day about the Flash being bumped again. We talked about it on this show. But buried in that story on Variety was This little piece of information, this is from Variety when they wrote the following. Following the box office disappointment of Justice League, Warner Brothers has been reevaluating its approach to making movies based on TV DC comic characters. The studio is not moving forward with Batman and Superman movies featuring Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, respectively. I'll just read the last part again. The studio is not moving forward with Batman and Superman movies featuring Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, respectively. All right, look, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I was not going to talk about this today because if only somebody had told everybody almost 2 years ago that Ben Affleck was done as Batman, other than the one film left on his contract, whether or not he'd do that or not, who knows. We've already talked about Henry Cavill was probably departing as Superman at any rate, but the fact of the matter is I get about 100 to 150 emails a day, and about 20 to 30 of them over the past 24, 48 hours have been about this topic, so I figured I better address it. Look, again, we have known forever, at least anybody who would listen to me, we have known forever that Ben Affleck was done as Batman. The only question mark was the fact that he still had one film left on his contract and whether or not they would exercise that one last film or not. That's been the only question. It's pretty obvious if he does fulfill that one film left on his contract, it ain't going to be, or it doesn't look like it's going to be in Matt Reeves' Batman's, that's for sure. And then the whole Henry Cavill thing came out. It is intriguing, though, that we are now seeing multiple of the major trades who are better connected than any of us will ever be seem now to be reasserting the notion that Cavill, who I love as Superman, Affleck, who I love as Superman, notwithstanding what they did with the character in Justice League, unfortunately, that they're both out, they're both gone. They're both out. That's the assertion at this point. Here's what I think. I believe for the most part that is absolutely true. They're done. But I also believe with Warner Brothers, I think there's a little bit of an element that Warner Brothers isn't 100% sure yet. I think they have no plans for Superman now with Henry Cavill. They're planning around it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know that Warner Brothers has 100% in their own head said we're done with Cavill's Superman. I don't think they've 100% come to that conclusion. I think they're sort of like, yeah, I don't think we're going to do anything more with Henry Cavill as Superman, so let's proceed without that. But let's not absolutely say that, because who knows, maybe in 2 or 3 years we might want to revisit. I kind of feel like they might be in that sort of a zone. I don't know that for sure. I'm just speculating like you guys are speculating. With the Ben Affleck situation, nothing has changed in 2 years. Is it 2 years? Or we got to be getting close to 2 years. Nothing has changed in a hell of a long time. He's done, but there is one film left on the contract, and I don't think Warner Brothers has ever 100% decided whether or not to exercise that one last film on his contract or not. And if you want to exercise it, where do you exercise it? And even if you wanted to exercise it, the fact that you had Justice League coming out, and in the weeks leading up to Justice League, you got Ben Affleck in the chairs getting interviewed going, I'm looking for a way to get out of playing Batman, and I'm looking for a way to gracefully get out of it. Am I going to play Batman again? Oh, I wouldn't say that. And blah, like totally distracting from the movie. And I love Batman. You guys know I'm a huge Affleck guy. You guys know this. But even if you're Warner Bros., even if you wanted theoretically to use Ben in that one last film, do you want him to become the distraction that he was? Again, leading into Justice League, talking about, making the story about how, hey, Ben's talking about how he wants out and all this. Like, look, we all know he's out. We all know he's got one film left on his contract that you may or may not use. So I don't understand the idea of hiding it. The bottom line is this. I believe what Variety's saying for the most part is true, but I also believe that there is a part of Warner Brothers on both the Affleck Batman and the Henry Cavill Superman side where there's a little bit of indecision. I think they've pretty much decided they're moving on from Cavill Superman, and they're making plans reflecting that, but they're not 100% sure that it's a never situation. You know what I mean? I think with Affleck, we know he's done, but Warner Brothers, I still think Warner Brothers is toying with the idea of exercising that one last film. I think, and again, I'm not basing this on anything other than my own speculation about they're still toying. I think they're still toying with it. I think Walter Hamada came in. I think the nature of the relationship between Ben and Warner Brothers changed. Ben is still a Warner Brothers guy. You know, Warner Brothers is still planning on making The Accountant 2 with Ben Affleck. So, for the most part, I believe that is all true. But I do believe there's still an element of indecision for long term. Not with Ben. Ben, they just got to decide whether they're going to exercise that one last film or not. But that hasn't changed in a year and a half. The Superman thing is a relatively new thing. But I think they're making plans right now, has become obvious. They're making plans right now where they're not including Superman or Henry Cavill in any of their plans at the moment. Right? They pretty much affirm that with their statement. So where this ultimately goes, I'm not really sure. Here's the thing, though. Does the departure of Affleck and Cavill out of the DCU, does that kill the DC movie universe? That's what a lot of people keep saying. A lot of people I see online, well, if Henry Cavill's gone, the DC's dead. If Batman's gone, DC's dead, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff, right? Now remember, there ain't none of you who are a bigger fan of Henry Cavill as Superman than me, unless your name is Henry Cavill's mom. That might be different. But there ain't none of you that are a bigger fan of Henry Cavill as Superman than me. There are very, very few of you who are a bigger fan of Ben Affleck as Batman than me. So understand that this is coming from me. Actors are replaceable. Actors are replaceable. There can never be another Bond other than Sean Connery. Well, guess what? The biggest Bond box office hits of all time weren't with Sean Connery. They're with this Daniel Craig dude. And Daniel Craig's doing another one, then they'll move on to another actor. And so on and so forth. I have loved Cavill as Superman. I love Affleck as Batman. But that doesn't mean, look, the DC universe is bigger than those guys. Is it a smart thing to do? No. It is not a smart thing to part with Henry Cavill as Superman and the Superman character, or Affleck as Batman, and they seem to be taking their damn sweet time with Batman. It's not a smart move. But does that mean everything is now doomed? No. No. Look, I've said for a long time, DC should reboot. Because I believe rebooting gives DC their greatest chance of success moving forward. But, and they're not rebooting, but that doesn't mean it's the only chance they have of succeeding. I believe the smart thing would have been to reboot. They're not doing that. Okay, that doesn't mean they're doomed. I think they tossed aside their best chance of success, but that doesn't mean they don't have other chances for success too. The smart thing to do, if you're not rebooting your universe, is that you keep Henry Cavill as your Superman and you keep Ben Affleck as your Batman. If you're not rebooting, then you keep those guys. That's the smartest move. But it doesn't mean it's the only move. It doesn't mean it's the only thing that's going to make it work or not work. Because, hey, let's be fair. They've had Henry Cavill as Superman and Ben Affleck as Batman, and their DC cinematic universe hasn't been the biggest success, right? So I kind of reject the idea that unless these guys are there, this cannot work. I reject that idea. I think it still can. I think it's better to have them there. I think you increase your chances of succeeding if they're there and you're not rebooting. But if they go a different way, guess what? There are other, and to use sports terminologies, there are other paths to victory here. There are other avenues to a win. Just because you passed up on maybe your best chance for a win doesn't mean you still can't find other ways to get the win. That's all I'm saying. So what I would say to everybody is, let's all take a deep breath. Nobody's more upset about the Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill situation than me. But let's all take a deep breath and realize and just recognize there are other ways they can pull this out. We got an Aquaman movie coming that looks fantastic, being directed by a great director in James Wan. Let's focus on that for now. Let's get Aquaman under your belt. And what do I always say, guys? Winning cures everything. Aquaman comes out and crushes it the way it looks like it possibly could. Guess what? The entire perception of DC changes. Because winning cures everything. When you come out with a big win, it changes the perceptions on everything. And I think a big win for Aquaman is going to change a lot of perceptions about where DC's at and where DC's going. So let's see what happens. We only got to wait till December. Let's see what happens when we get to that point. All right. With that out of the way, guys, let's save some time now and go over and take some live questions from you guys. You guys have been dumping a lot of questions here in the live chat already. Let's go over and get to some of those. And we are going to start things off with, who are we starting off with? We are starting off with Technovine. And Technovine writes, "Hey, John, if you have a fantasy to kill Sean Bean yourself in unlimited ways," I love Sean Bean, "do it on Hitman 2 on PC this November, where he is named the Undying." Oh, that's glorious. Sean, look, for some of you who may not understand what Technovine is talking about, Sean Bean, who is a great actor, and he's got great screen presence. I love seeing him and stuff. He, of course, has this reputation that every time his character's in a movie, his character gets killed. Now, recently we saw him in The Martian, and he survived The Martian. Way to go, Sean. But I didn't know that, so I'm assuming he's doing one of the voices in Hitman 2, and his name is The Undying. I don't know if that's true, Technovine, if you're just pulling my chain, but if it's true, that's awesome, and that's hilarious. I will check that out for sure. Sebastian writes, "I would like to coordinate a fan event for you, other blog folks in San Diego next July that will benefit you, them, fans, and a charity. Please help me." I don't really get involved with other people coordinating events like that. It's just not wise for me to do that. On top of that, I don't even know that I'm going to go to Comic-Con this year. I usually go to Comic-Con, but I think this year I'm going to try to make 2 trips to Canada. I think I'm going to try to spend a little bit of my summer in Canada this year. So I don't even know that I'm going to be there, to be honest with you. But hey, thanks for the offer, though, Sebastian. Mike Hill writes, "Have you seen the set pics from the Arrowverse crossover? Superman is wearing the black suit. Wonder what this could mean." I think it's an Elseworld thing, right? I mean, again, we already took a look at the picture, but it's an Elseworld thing. So really, ultimately, it means nothing. I think anything that happens in this Arrowverse crossover thing ultimately really means nothing because it's an Elseworlds kind of like Crisis on Earth X. Ultimately, it doesn't really mean anything because it's a different Earth sort of thing. But what we do know is that they're introducing Batwoman in the crossover. And we do know that CW is looking at pulling the trigger on greenlighting a Batwoman show. So there's got to be some connection there. So I don't know. We'll have to I'm just assuming that in whatever world this is in, where Stephen Amell is Flash and Grant Gustin is Green Arrow, that in that world, Superman wears the black costume. That's the only thing I can really figure out at this point. Maybe it has deeper meaning. We'll find out soon. All right. Ben Hayusa writes, "Morning, John. Just want to say, looking forward to watching the show from the new studio, along with your co-host. Can't wait for it, and can't wait for Halloween." Yeah, I'm looking forward to Halloween too. Like I said, this Friday, we've locked it in. This Friday, the show launches from the new studio. Again, I said it off the top. Some people may ask, why not start on a Monday? Because launching on a Friday, we then have the weekend to work out any bugs because something's going to go wrong, right? I know. I'm sure some things are going to go wrong with the first show. Absolutely. There are going to be things that go wrong for the first show. So I kind of figured, you know what, instead of waiting till the following Monday to launch, why don't we launch on Friday? And that way we've got a couple of days to fix whatever problems we have with the first show, because we're going to have problems with the first show. But I'm excited about it. Courtney is super excited about it. Jonathan and Ray have been working really hard. Some of my other new behind-the-scenes team members. I got a dude named Jonathan Deans and Matt and a bunch of people. Everybody's excited. Everybody's excited. We're pumped. We've been working really hard. Yesterday, we put the final. We've been starting the process, putting the final touches on the set. And it's not some big Broadway set. It's a simple set, but I love it. And today, we're doing some tech run-throughs. Courtney's coming into studio today to do some tech run-throughs. Really excited about it, guys. Cannot wait for you to see it. And I'll be as stupid as ever, but the set is going to look really nice, and I'm looking forward to being there. And Courtney will be much smarter than me. All right. Ben Rayner writes, I know you've been busy, but did you get all caught up on The Flash or The Gifted? Also, Weekly Hero today. Nope, no Weekly Hero today. Not until... The funny thing is, Robert Meyer Burnett is coming down to the new studio today. So me and Robert Meyer Burnett are getting together at the new studio later this afternoon to try to figure out what we want the set to be. But we're not ready. We're not ready yet. It might be next Wednesday. It's a 50% chance we'll relaunch Weekly Hero next Wednesday. If not then definitely by the Wednesday after. So no Weekly Hero tonight. We can't do it. We don't have time because I'm trying to get this new show launched in the studio, at least at any rate. So that won't be happening. Caught up on The Flash? No, I did watch the season premiere. Caught up on Gifted? No, but I did watch the season premiere. So it's been very, very hard for me to have any breathing room to sit down and just watch a show the last few weeks. It's been very, very difficult for me. But I liked the first Flash episode, and I certainly liked the first Gifted episode, but I am not caught up yet. Sebastian writes, following up, charity of choice for bloggers. Hey, it's a neat idea, but listen, honestly, Sebastian, coordinating people at Comic-Con is nearly impossible. Because all these people you're talking about, they're all there working Comic-Con. And they have schedules and events and blah, and then trying to coordinate things. I mean, listen, it's hard enough every year for me and just a couple of my colleagues just to arrange, 30 minutes that we can get together at one of the bars to get together and have a drink or a quick bite together because we only get to see each other once a year. And it's almost impossible to schedule that. And often it's like, okay, 11:30 tomorrow night, let's meet at, whatever the bar is across the street from the convention center. It's very, very difficult. So it's an interesting idea, but I just don't know that it's practical. MuseTac Reviews writes, hey, John, my man, have you checked out any of the returning comic book shows like The Gifted, Arrow, Titans, or Flash? Flash saw the premiere, have not seen the premiere for Arrow, did see the premiere for Gifted, not interested in Titans. So that's where I'm at right now. Ant Banks 1984 writes, do you think it would have been a good idea to show the dusting of people in other parts of the galaxy besides Earth in Avengers 3? More impactful? No, I don't think it would have been more impactful. I think, look, Avengers is a long movie. Avengers Infinity War is a long movie. Showing strangers to the audience dying would not be more impactful than showing characters we have spent tons of time with and are emotionally attached to, them dying. That was by far more impactful. By far more impactful. Random citizens on some planet we visited once in Guardians of the Galaxy dusting. Okay. Peter Parker, who we have gotten to know now over 3 movies, dusting. That has impact. Watching T'Challa dust. That has impact. Watching Star-Lord dust. That has impact. So, and then, they used the post-credit scene to kind of drive home the point that this was happening all over the globe, and we already knew that he was doing it across the universe. We didn't need a visual to drive that point home too. So, no, I'm going to, look, if they had done it, would I have complained? No, not at all. It's not a bad idea. But as far as being more impactful, no. Keeping whatever screen time you have for showing dusting, focus it on the characters we know and we care about. That, to me, has the much deeper emotional impact. So that's just my thought. But I know maybe a lot of you guys think Ant Banks says something. It is an interesting idea. Maybe some of you feel, no, it would have been more impactful to show people across the galaxy getting dust. That's possible, but to me, the way they did it was far more impactful. But maybe you guys think differently. James Welsh writes, how about a mixed race Magneto? Still during the civil rights, he sees white supremacists lynch his dad for the relations with the white woman. Sure, whatever. Look, the only thing to me was about you got to change his origin story because the concentration camps, that doesn't work anymore. Because now you've got a 90-year-old Magneto if you're doing a modern story of the X-Men. So you got to put it in a similar situation that it is a cultural context that completely changes his paradigm that he views the world through. A young Eric now sees all of humanity as intrinsically evil, destructive, and causes pain. And you need an event like that, like the concentration camps. I think like a situation like the Detroit riots or something like that in that era. Considering, Magneto was based off of Malcolm X anyway, it seems to me like that makes sense. Then could you do other things? Can you make him mixed race? Can you make him this? Sure, you could. There's a lot of options out there. To me, the most important thing is not what is the race of the character. The most important thing is the narrative. And the narrative that I think works really well just necessitates the character then being an African-American character. But hey, whatever. Everybody's got different opinions. Rami J. Royster writes, any interest in playing the Dark Souls series on the PC? It's one of the hardest games I've ever played. I don't know anything about it. I've obviously, when I look up lists, hey, best PC games of 2017 and 2018, I see Dark Souls pop up, but I honestly don't know that much about the game. So if I've come across it and it hasn't stuck in my head, then clearly it didn't jump out at me, but that doesn't mean it may not be a great idea. I'll take a look at it. Ant Banks follows up. In Avengers 4, Tony Stark will break his leg, dislocate his shoulder, rupture his spleen, crack his ribs, but all will be fixed thanks to nanotech. One of my frustrations, Ant Banks, to go right along with what you're saying here, I much prefer the Iron Man of Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. Now, I'm not saying I prefer the character more, but the armor itself. Because while the armor itself was fantastical and certainly sci-fi and all that kind of stuff, they tried to pass it off at least in a realistic sort of way. He's a mechanical, electrical engineer. He knows how to build this stuff. I do this and I do. And despite the fact that it was a fantastical fantasy, even in Iron Man 1, they did it in such a way that almost felt grounded. It almost felt real, right? They've gone from that, and don't get me wrong, I love the Iron Man character in Avengers Infinity War. Love it. My one issue, though, is that now they've taken Iron Man basically into the realm of magic. Now it's magic. And then you pull this cop out by saying, no, not magic. It's nanotechnology. No, it's magic. It's magic. Because now you're saying he can do anything and just call it nanotechnology and the dumb fans will just eat it up, right? And don't get me wrong. Again, I love the character in Avengers Infinity War. I thought Tony was great in it. I love the action scenes, the fight between him and Thanos. All that stuff is great. But I find it disappointing that they feel like they need to take quantum leaps every single movie. Every single movie, there needs to be a new quantum leap with the Iron Man armor. It's not even armor anymore. Now it's nanotechnology. That's magic. It can do anything. Stab through the belly, just spray this magic foam in my belly and I'm all fixed. Yay! Yeah, that part to me takes away a little bit from it, to be honest with you. But hey, whatever. It's not a big deal. But I share your sentiments there, Ant Banks. All right. Rami J. Royster writes, the quote, "Come on, guys, take an interest in science," was from The Happening. Oh, man, I saw that movie twice, and I don't even remember the line. That's how much my head... A quote got shared the other day, guys. "Come on, guys, take an interest in science," from Mark Wahlberg. And I'm like, I'm sure that's a movie quote, but I don't recognize it. It's from The Happening. I've seen The Happening. I've seen The Happening twice. I will never watch The Happening again, and I do not remember that line. Even now that you're saying it, I don't remember the line. So I think that's a defense mechanism. You know, when we have painful, traumatic things happen to us in our lives, we have defense mechanisms in our mind that try to block it out. I think The Happening was such a traumatic event that my mind tries to block out the line. Sebastian writes, last note, daughter, thumbs up, Goosebumps 2. The first one was better. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I didn't like the first one. I know some people that did, though. I know some people that liked the first Goosebumps. So, therefore, I just really didn't have any interest in seeing the second Goosebumps. But that's awesome that you got to see it with your kid and that your kid enjoyed it. That's good. I know some other people that enjoyed it, too. So, that's great. Dimsum05 writes, it's a bummer that these two fine young actors didn't make the mark they hoped with these iconic characters because of a studio's lack of vision. I don't think it's an issue of a lack of vision. I certainly don't think it's the studio's lack of vision. Look, some people liked Man of Steel. Some people didn't. Some people liked Batman versus Superman. Some people didn't. It's not lack of vision, right? And look, to be fair, I've always tried to be fair. I'm not always fair, but I try to be fair. To be fair in this situation, while I think it is a mistake to not move forward with Henry Cavill as Superman, while I feel it is a mistake to not move forward with Ben Affleck as Batman, and whatever the circumstances are, let's take a step back and try to look at it from Warner Brothers' point of view. All right? Just to be fair. You don't have to agree with their point of view to at least try to understand their point of view. That's a big problem with everybody today. Not just movie fans, but everybody today. Everybody equates trying to understand somebody else's point of view as meaning that I have to agree with their point of view. No. You can disagree with somebody's point of view, but still understand the value in trying to understand that person's point of view. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. You can disagree. But nobody today, nobody wants to, in today's political climate, nobody even wants to try to understand somebody else's point of view. Yesterday was a great example. I believe I made a very compelling, logical argument about why making Magneto an African-American character serves the narrative and stays faithful to the origin of the character moving forward, and why you need to make the change. Now, you didn't have to agree with me, right? So that was kind of the basis of yesterday's show. I had 80 dislikes on that video before the show started. I had 80 dislikes before the show started. And when you go through my comment section of that video, the comment section is riddled with ignorant fools. They're not ignorant fools because they disagreed with me. Ignorant fools are people who go in and leave comments, angry comments, and never even watch the video first. You can just tell by reading their comments, oh, this is a person who didn't actually watch the video. Oh, that's a person who... That's one of the big problems today. We do not see value in understanding somebody else's point of view, because we feel like, oh, you have to agree with them to try to... No, you don't. So let's take a step back with Warner Brothers here for a second and understand things from their point of view, theoretically. Do I believe it's a mistake to not include a Henry Cavill Superman and a Ben Affleck Batman? Yes, I believe that's a mistake. But let's say you're Warner Brothers. You tried. You made a damn good Man of Steel movie. One of, to me, top 10 comic book movies of all time. Easily the most underrated comic book movie of all time. But you're Warner Brothers and you make a damn good Man of Steel movie. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of the audience didn't like it. A lot of the critics didn't like it. Blah, blah. And while it made money, it didn't have the kind of success you were sort of hoping for. It was certainly successful, but it didn't have the success you were hoping for. You do Batman versus Superman. It's not a perfect film, but, you try to do the best you can, and you do it with these characters, and you do it with these actors, and you don't get the results you're hoping for. you fast forward. Now you do Justice League, which is supposed to be your answer to the Avengers. And you don't even come within a whiff of $1 billion. Not even within a whiff of it. You make $650 million, which for most movies is great, but it's the lowest grossing film of your franchise and doesn't come within a whiff of the Avengers. And your two key characters, Batman and Superman, is kind of what everything you've been building everything around with these characters, blah, 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 and it hasn't worked. At least it hasn't worked the way you were hoping it would work. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, if I'm trying to look at this from Warner Brothers' point of view, and you understand that the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again while expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity, then I can see why Warner Brothers may feel like, you know what, guys, we've been doing it this way with these people in this sort of a way, and it has not worked. We need to change. I get it. I don't agree with it. I don't agree, but I understand. And I get it. And I think if more of us who are fans of these guys and fans of these movies and whatever, I think if more of us just took a step back and took a breath and tried to see it from their point of view, we may not agree with them, like I don't, but I get it. It's an approach they're deciding to make. Much like I don't agree with the decision to not reboot, but I get it. I get why you're not. I don't agree, but I get it. And I think our film fandom, and just not just our film fandom will become a better place. I think we as film fans will become more rounded film fans if we just took a breath from the knee-jerk reactions, and we're all guilty of knee-jerk reactions, me included. But I think if we just took a step back a little bit and say, okay, bad decision, but let me try to understand why they came to that decision. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here. It's a thing, but I don't think them moving on is a result of a lack of vision. They had a vision. Whether it was the best vision or the worst vision, who knows, but they had a vision. They wanted it to work. They tried to make it work. By some standards, it did work. By other standards, it didn't. Now the question is, do you just continue plodding along and doing the same thing? Or do you make changes? It's a tough situation. I just think we got to admit it's not an easy situation. A lot of us like to think it's just a simple answers, and it's probably not. But anyway, Ant Banks writes, the video yesterday about the possibility of changing Magneto's origin to African American has 413 dislikes. As a black man, should I feel disappointed? Oh, no, it's fully expected. What I'm shocked about, I'll be honest with you, I knew a couple things going into making that video. Number one, I knew there was going to be a ton of cupcake, fragile, anti-anything that's not pure white people out there that were just going to jump on it without even listening to what the argument was. I knew that. There's some very, very fragile cupcakes out there who just mention anything. Like, I'm sure just the story about the Grimm thing, saying, the new Grimm's gonna have a female lead. I'm sure there's a bunch of fragile cupcakes out there like, female lead! Like, they're just kind of freaking out about it. So I knew going into making that video that there would be a lot of people who would react to it without even bothering to take a minute to hear what it was I was talking about. And to be honest, I was very encouraged how many people wrote to me and said things like, hey, John, I got real mad when I read your title, but then when I listened to your argument, it made sense. Yeah, you won me over. Like, I was shocked how many people wrote to me saying, like, were very forthright. It was like, I was triggered at your title, but then I watched your argument, and I still don't know that I agree, but you made some really good points. Like that, I was amazed how many people did. Very pleasantly surprised. But in making the video, I knew there was going to be a lot of people that would just instantly react to it without ever taking a split second to actually look at it and hear what it was the discussion was about. So I, quite frankly, when I made the decision to go with that story, because I believe this is important. I'm a film fan. I'm going to talk about this. When I made the decision to do that, I quite frankly fully expected the number of dislikes on the video to outnumber the number of likes on the video. I really did. So imagine my shock today when I looked at it, and like that 413 dislikes does not surprise me. What surprised me was that there was triple the number of likes on it. Like over 1,200 likes. I was not expecting that. I'll be honest with you. I was very, very pleasantly surprised by that. So I'll tell you what, Ant Banks, forget as a black man, as a human being, I think I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. I think the cynicism and the cynical nature in me just that, these fragile little cupcakes are going to jump out here and blah, blah. And I'm not talking about people who disagree with me. No. Lots of people who heard my argument and didn't agree. Great. That's what the discourse is about. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I'm just talking about these people who get really triggered just before even wanting to listen to a discussion. But I knew there would be a lot of them, and I thought they would outnumber the more rational people. And I fully expected more dislikes than likes on that video. I really did. Or at best, that they would be about 50-50. I was very, very shockingly, pleasantly surprised to see that the number of likes on that particular video actually tripled the amount of dislikes, which is not what I was expecting. Especially when you do a topic like that and a subject like that, I expected much worse. Maybe because I'm becoming a little bit more cynical. But I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. I really was. And it restored my faith in humanity a little bit more. But anyway, yeah, I would actually take a lot of, myself personally, it's made me more optimistic. It really has, seeing those results. So I would feel more optimistic. But who knows? Maybe you're not like me and you started from a place of optimism and seeing this as discouraging, whereas I'm this cynical, jagged little grump who I was just expecting the worst. So I don't know, maybe it's not, but I look at it as pretty optimistically. Let's see. Jeff Gordon writes, have you been watching The Mayans? Thoughts? Nope. And me, Sons of Anarchy is one of my top three favorite films, top three favorite television series of all time. I have had so little time to watch TV. I haven't even watched the first episode of The Mayans yet. So I got to get caught up on that. Jeff follows up with The Boys coming to Prime, how long till we see Mystery Men on the small screen? I don't know that they'll look at doing Mystery Men. I don't know. First of all, the movie Mystery Men. So Ben Stiller, Hank Azaria, Gene Garofalo, Pee Wee Damn Herman, William H. Macy, Casanova Frankenstein. I love Mystery Men so much. I don't know that I've ever felt any hunger from the audience for Mystery Men. Now, granted, I've never felt a lot of hunger for The Boys either. And here we got The Boys. So anything's possible. But I wouldn't hold my breath for a Mystery Men thing. But if they did, I'd be happy. I'd be certainly curious to see what they would do. Honestly, I'd rather see a Mystery Men sequel. Now, like 20 plus years later, I'd rather see a Mystery Men sequel. Now is the time for a Mystery Men sequel. That movie, Mystery Men, was so far ahead of its time, it's crazy. So I don't know. We'll wait and see. Alan Gonzalez writes, do you think Cavill will go to the MCU after this? Oh, who knows? I mean, I don't know why. Honestly, Alan, it's like, as soon as one actor does one thing, the only thing we care about, now will he go to the MCU? I mean, who cares? He's an actor. He's going to do a lot of different things. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. We know he's going to be in the Witcher TV series, which I'm really excited about. I still think he's the odds-on favorite to be the next James Bond. So he's got a lot of things going. So just because you're an actor and you've been in a comic book movie does not mean the first thing we should think about is him now doing other comic book movies. He's an actor. He could no more, no less of a chance than any other actor, I think. That's just the way I see it. Ty W. Rothermall writes, what are your thoughts on the extras in The Joker being locked in a train and denied breaks? I think it's horrible, and if it was on purpose, I don't want to support this film. I don't know. I saw headlines like that, and my instant thought was, I don't care. I have no opinion on it. I don't care. Look, as somebody who's been on the set of a lot of movies, not as much as a lot of film professionals, but I mean, for an average dude, I've been on set of a lot of movies. And look, crazy shit happens on set of movies. I'm not justifying whatever happened there because I don't even really know the details because I just don't care about it. My ultimate thing, though, is like, what? Like, did somebody get injured? Did somebody? I mean, I don't know. So since I simply don't know much about the situation, and I don't know much about the situation because I really don't care much about the situation, I really can't offer a legitimate opinion on it. I'm not informed on it, so I can't give a legitimate opinion about it. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. Brennan Millspa writes, F you, John. I know you hate First Man, you liar. Just kidding. What do you think about El Royale? I saw it and I thought it was pretty meh. Bridges is good, though. Well, I still haven't seen Bad Times at the El Royale. You know I was really excited about it, but things were counter-mounting for me last week. I didn't have a chance to go to see it. And then I probably had a couple of very small window opportunities to see it the last couple of days. But honestly, I've been hearing from a number of people like you, Brennan, the meh reaction. And I thought, okay, I could go do that, or I could spend a little bit more time with my wife because I haven't had a ton of time with my wife lately. Or I could do that, or I could finally try to see the season premiere of Flash. Which I got to do because my friend is in the second episode of Flash, and I can't watch that till I watch and I just found myself doing other things. I'm going to get around to go seeing it, but as of right now, I don't have an opinion on it. Nathan Oswald writes, I love how Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka is such a smartass. Oh, he's a borderline dick, but I love it, man. First of all, Gene Wilder, what can you say? The dude was such a great performer. He had, like, when you look at the guy, look, if you don't know much about Gene Wilder and you just look at him, you'd think he's this awkward, nerdy looking, right? This dude had so much charisma on screen. Like, he had a magnetism. When he's on screen in one of his classic movies, you just can't take your eyes off him. Like, seriously. If you and a couple of buddies are looking for a couple movies to watch one weekend for some fun, make a Gene Wilder theme day. Pick out a couple of Gene Wilder movies and watch them, and you're going to have a good time. ZOMG Ruler writes, so tired of these rumors. Why can't Warner Brothers 100% confirm? Well, for a couple of reasons, ZOMG. They don't have to. Like, would I like them to? Yes. But number one, let's understand that what you do does not force their hand and to make them do anything they don't want to do. And by you, I don't mean you personally. I'm just saying, just because reports, just because stories get found out, trades write stories, other people find blah, 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 that doesn't make Warner Brothers go, oh, now I'm supposed to jump? If you're Warner Brothers, you know, I'm supposed to jump just because you're going around talking about things? I don't have to do shit. Whether it's true or not, I don't have to do anything. Another thing, too, is that I do believe there is, like I said earlier, I believe there's an element of this where there are some things that I believe Warner Brothers hasn't reached a final decision on yet. And again, I'm not saying that as any insider information. That's just my speculation. I don't think Warner Brothers, even today, has made a final decision whether or not to exercise that final film on Ben Affleck's contract. And I don't think that even though they're moving ahead without Henry Cavill as Superman and they're planning their future without him, I don't think they've 100% decided that they may not want to come back to him in 3, 4, or 5 years. So I believe there's still an element of that. And if you're not 100% sure, then say nothing. It's not Warner Brothers' job to tell us what's going on if they don't want us to know what's going on yet. It's not their job. Murray Reich writes, I like the Arrow premiere a lot. I still haven't seen it. Different direction. Flash premiere was fine. Black Panther premiere was great. Not bothering watching the Super Jobber anymore. Yeah, that reminds me. I still haven't seen the Black Lightning premiere. I loved that show last year. You know, there was a lot of good first seasons for superhero television last year. Black Lightning, The Runaways, even Krypton, The Gifted, even Krypton which wasn't in like my top 1 or 2, but even Krypton wasn't bad. And I had no expectation. Even Krypton wasn't bad, but my favorite was Black Lightning. I was most surprised by Black Lightning. I haven't even gotten around to watching that one yet, but I'm excited to jump on board with it. Murray follows up with, and I enjoyed Aaron Cummings' character in The Flash. Yeah, Aaron, again, I'm super excited. Now that I've watched the season premiere last night, I'm hoping later tonight when I get home from work, I can sit down and watch Flash episode 2 because Aaron's in it and I want to see it. Let's see. Preston Walden writes, going to see next week American Werewolf in London and The Shining at the historic 1922 Tampa Theater, which is supposed to be haunted. Can't wait. First of all, that you get to see American Werewolf in London in a movie theater is awesome. Seeing The Shining again, I saw The Shining on the big screen once in a revival, which was awesome at the same time. That sounds like a great double feature, Preston. That sounds like an awesome double feature. And to see it in a theater like that sounds even more cool. I'm a little bit envious. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling a little bit of envy right now. The Porn Nerds writes, will we see Robert Redford cameo in Captain Marvel? I doubt it. I don't think so. I mean, narratively, you could make the argument for him to be there. But I got a feeling we're not going to. So I don't think so. Casinema Reviews writes, how are home video releases decided? Why did John Wick 2 come out 4 months after its theater date and Logan came out just 2 months after its theater date? No. First of all, Logan did not come out 2 months after its release date. Just clear that up right now. I know what you're saying, Jersey. You say, but John, Logan came out on March 3rd in the movie theaters and it came out in May on home video. Therefore, that's 2 months. No, there's a minimum. And the minimum, I believe, is 12 weeks. The agreement between the exhibitors, which is the movie theater owners, and the studios, minimum, I believe, is 12 weeks. Might be 11 weeks, might be some, but I believe it's roughly around 12 weeks. Logan did not come out 2 months after. It came out 12 weeks after. So I believe, if I'm remembering it right, the dates were... Logan came out, best film of 2017, by the way. Logan came out, I believe, March 3rd, March 2nd, March 3rd, March 4th, in there somewhere. It came out on home video, or on Blu-ray, I believe on like May 26th, May 27th. And if you go to your calendar and count the weeks, that's 12 weeks, which is generally 3 months. That's the minimum. Now, a studio does not have to release, in 12 weeks. They can hold it off a little bit longer. If they think, hey, yeah, we can release in 12 weeks, but it would be better for us if we released it like 1 month later than that, or 3 weeks later than that, or 6 weeks later than that, because this is happening and we might get better push and blah, blah, blah. It becomes the same thing about anything else. It's about marketing. When can we get the best bang for our buck? Is it release it as soon as we're allowed to? Or is it, let's go to when we're allowed to and then release it 2 weeks later because this other thing is happening and we'll be able to generate more buzz for the home video release date. It's the exact same thing as when they're deciding on what their release dates for their movies should be. What's the other competition going to be in the home video market? What other things are going on in the culture that might help us push it? What's doing this? What's doing that? So there's a lot of discussions there. But yeah, minimum is somewhere in the 12-week range that they've got to wait. Canada Rocks writes, a friend of mine had a small part in the first episode of The Boys, and from what he tells me, it definitely will be R and batshit crazy. Dudes, if you know anything about, I highly encourage you guys. We talked about this on the show yesterday, but The Boys is coming to Amazon Prime. Go on Comixology or whatever your comic book reading app of choice is. Download, go buy just the first couple of issues of The Boys. This is nuts. It's ludicrous. It's crazy. And with Carl Urban in there and Elizabeth Shue. Oh, Elizabeth Shue. I am so fascinated for the show. I just want to see just how crazy they're going to go. All right. Thomas Dixon writes, just saw Venom. Can't believe how funny it was. Venom was really funny. I really enjoyed it, minus a useless plot device and a boring first act. Yeah, and really, to me, the two big issues to me with Venom was an almost unforgivably poorly constructed first act. and I said this before, I'll say it again, I believe a lot of people checked out of the movie. That didn't literally get up and walk out of the theater, but I think a lot of people mentally checked out of the movie by the end of the first act because it was a very poorly first act. Very poorly put together first act. And the Drake character, you had an actor like Riz Ahmed, you could have done more. And I just think they wasted their villain. I really do. I don't think they needed to focus on their villain. Keep the focus on Venom and Eddie, but at least make a better villain than that. And there are other issues, but those were my two biggest ones personally. But overall, had a very good time with the film and a lot of laughs. Sprite Bear writes, have you seen the reboot to Charmed? It was good. Nah, I haven't. I know some people that were involved with the first Charmed. But obviously, I'm not the target demographic for Charmed. I heard there was some controversy around it. Whatever. I don't know enough about the original show to really care. So, no. Believe me, if I haven't watched The Mayans yet, then I haven't watched Charmed yet. But honestly, Sprite Bear, I've heard from other people saying it's not bad. It's just not really my show, per se. Poor Nerds writes, if Daredevil Season 3 is a success, would Disney consider taking Netflix hero shows to their streaming service? Well, I think it's more complicated than that. I think there are contracts in place. I think it's not just a matter of Disney going, we've decided to take these back. I think it's more complicated than that. I don't think they can just snap their fingers and say, oh, we're just taking these back over to our streaming service. If they could have, I'm telling you right now, they would have. If Marvel could have just gone, if there was nothing preventing Marvel going from, because they're desperately looking for content for their streaming service. If they could have just gone like that, oh yeah, we can just take them back over, they would have done it already. It would have already been done. So it's just a little bit more complicated than that. And I'm not going to pretend that I know the intricacies of the contract between Netflix and Marvel about these shows and when can what happen and all that kind of stuff, because I don't understand it. I haven't seen the contract. I don't know what the actual details of their agreement are. But I know it's a little bit more complicated than just saying, we're going to take it back. So that's probably why you haven't seen that happen. Edgar Magana writes, will we get another Equalizer? I would like another one, but I don't think so. I don't think we will. I'm open to it, though, and I certainly think it's a possibility. The second Equalizer didn't do bad money. Hold on a second. Let me just bring this up here. Equalizer 2 box office. It didn't do bad. It didn't do great either. Made $189 million on a $62 million budget. So it's straddling that line of breaking even and even being a little bit profitable. Now, the problem is the first Equalizer, I don't think did a lot better than that, but I think it did do better. The first Equalizer made, not a lot better than that. Made $192. So it made about $8 million more. But it was also a cheaper film to make. So I don't know. I think it's possible, but if I had to guess at this point, I'm going to guess no. Anthony R. writes, we all know that Hydra did secret stuff throughout the decades. What if Magneto's origins are tied to them and they did some secret experiments with mutants in the 70s and ripped from his family? Here's the problem with that, Anthony. And I've had a few other people. You're not the only one. I've had some other people tweeting me stuff. What about Hydra? What makes the origin of Magneto so horrific is that it took place within real historical events. That is what drives the dagger home emotionally as an audience member. I would present to you that had you done the first X-Men movie with an opening that they had with young Eric being ripped from his parents by the Nazis at the concentration camps and all that kind of stuff, had you done that, but instead of at Nazi concentration camps, it was some fictional thing. A Hydra facility where they were experimenting on the... I present to you that it would have taken away at least 50% of the emotional impact of it. The fact that it's the Fantastic, an X-Men thing, happening within the concentration camps, is what I believe gave it the emotional oomph that left us as audience members. Because I still remember the first time I saw that X-Men movie, man. Everybody in the theater's like, oh my God, did they just do that in a comic book? Like, that's what gave it that emotional punch. And I think if you're going to create a new origin for Magneto, I believe it has to happen in something similar. It has to happen in a real context, something that really happened. Because there's an emotional home for that, whether it's the Detroit riots or whether it's something else. I believe making it a fictional thing, like Hydra did something to him, I believe that takes away 50% of the emotional underpinning of the character himself. So, believe me, Anthony, you're not the only one that was thinking about the whole Hydra thing. There are other people who thought of that too. But to me, that doesn't work because it takes away the power. Emotionally, the power of it, because it's rooted in something that really happened. And when it touches home like that, there's another level of emotional impact that something fictitious just cannot duplicate. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of the way I see it. It's good that you're thinking outside the box, though. I like that. Jason Twinner writes, could Sony keep Tom Holland in the MCU while casting someone as Miles Morales as Spider-Man in their Venomverse? I've been asked this question 1,000 times, Jason. To get some income from 2 Spider-Man at once. The answer to that is no. The nature of the deal between Marvel and Sony, Marvel will not allow Sony, under the terms of their agreement, to have a live-action Spider-Man while they've got a live-action Spider-Man. It doesn't matter if one's Peter Parker and one's Miles Morales. It doesn't matter. Because you devalue the character. You devalue the character if it can be, oh, you can see a live-action Spider-Man over there, and you can see a live-action Spider-Man over here. Don't worry, under the mask, they're different guys, but you can see them. There's no way Marvel would ever agree to that. I told this story before. I'll tell it again very, 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 very quickly. When I signed up with Lionsgate to do their show, Film HQ, well, they actually had me create it, but I created the show Film HQ for Lionsgate for their streaming service, Comic-Con HQ. And the name of my show was Film HQ. When they never said this to me, but at the time I had left Movie Talk. And they signed me up and they wanted me to do this weekly show, Film HQ, and I would run it, blah, 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 right? Now, after I had agreed to do the show, Film HQ, and I was developing the show, we were about a month away from starting shooting. I had been asked to come back to do Movie Talk again. And I thought about it and I said, sure, okay, fine. So they needed me, I went back. So they had asked me to come back and do Movie Talk again. What I didn't realize was that the guys at Lionsgate were upset that I went back to Movie Talk. Their whole idea was, look, we want our show, our Film HQ show, to be the place that you go to get John Campea's opinions on movies if you want John Campea's opinions on movies. It devalues our show if you're also doing that on another show. And we went back and forth because I was like, guys, you never said you didn't want me doing other shows talking about movie news too. You never said that. We never put that in our agreement. And so finally they just went, okay, fine, whatever. And we went ahead and did it. And I loved working with Lionsgate. I loved work. They were a great group of people to work with. I had a wonderful time working with those guys. And I don't know that I've ever been prouder of a show that I produced than Film HQ. I loved Film HQ. It's a shame we only did it for one season, but it does not take away from the fact that I love the people that I worked with and I love the people I worked for there. And eventually they came around saying, but that's the same thing. Like Marvel, why would Marvel say, yeah, we'll do this deal and do these concessions, but you cannot have another live-action Spider-Man flying around over there while we've got Spider-Man here. You want to do animated? Fine. But you can't do live-action while we're doing live-action. So, no, they can't do that. Dennis Henna writes, John, do you think movies should be scored by the demographic they were created for? No. Intended demographic score. Should that rating hold more weight? Absolutely not. No. That's a very skewed way of looking at things. Because look, the average film goer, when they're looking at scores for movies and they're looking for critical responses to movies and they're looking for reviews of movies, what use is it? And remember, the average movie-going audience is 95% of the audience. What use is there in having the demographic score? What use is that? Okay, this is a movie we just made that's specifically targeted at people who like slasher films. Okay, but now an average filmgoer is looking to see what is something they might like. If all they're getting exposed to is like the reviews from people who are predisposed to liking that movie, that creates unrealistic representation of what the average audience member can expect if they go in and watch it. That's why I always give far more weight to like critic reviews than like a Rotten Tomatoes or an IMDb fan reviews, right? Because yeah, certain movies, they're going to have certain demographics to go see them, and the people that are going to pay to go see them are the people who are predisposed to liking that sort of stuff. I prefer the film critic stuff because they represent the average moviegoer a lot more. Some like that stuff, some don't, and yet we all go in and watch the same movie and see if it works for us. And if it gets a high score, it's like, wow, even people who aren't predisposed to liking that sort of movie liked it. Therefore, there's a higher chance, not a guarantee, but there's at least a higher chance that I'm going to enjoy it too. So, no, I think only getting things scored by the intended demographic is massively misrepresentative. I think it would be a horrible idea, my friend. I think it would be a horrible idea. And absolutely, that would make any rating scores for the average movie-going audience, which represents 95% of the movie-going audience, it renders those reviews completely useless. Renders them useless. You need to know what people thought who are and who are not predisposed to liking that material. And if it works for most of them, great. Getting it just from people who are predisposed to liking that material makes it utterly and completely useless. So no, I wouldn't be for that at all. Joven St. Louis writes, Pulp Fiction or Fight Club? Pulp Fiction. I like Fight Club very, very much, but yeah, Pulp Fiction in a heartbeat. Run Amok Designs writes, greetings and salutations, meetings and congratulations. Good on you for your newest endeavor. You mentioned before that you took martial arts as youth. Did you ever yell out, sweep the leg, Johnny? Of course, everybody did. Everybody did. Whether or not you were in martial, everybody at some point, whether it's in a playground fight, whether you're just horsing around, whatever, everybody at some point yelled out, sweep the leg. And I certainly had a few people yell, sweep the leg, Johnny, to me. Absolutely that happened. Defectrum Productions just sent super chat. Thank you so much, Defectrum. Rude Shot writes, does mother know you weareth her drapes? Oh, who did Tony say that to? I can't remember who Tony said that to in the movie. Does mother know you weareth her drapes? That wasn't a Thor thing, was it? I can't remember who he said to. I'm getting frozen on that. Gio writes, please check out trailer for The Dark. It's basically a Guillermo del Toro teen film. Also saw original Halloween for the first time in 35mm last night. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the original Halloween. Everybody looks at me like I'm crazy when I say that. But it's the truth, I'm not. The Dark. All right, I will check that out, man. Thanks for putting it on my radar. Braz Drake writes, I think there's a good chance that Aunt May sewed that new Spider-Man suit since she knows he's Spider-Man now. Yeah, well, that's what we know from the end of the one movie. When she walks in, what the? That was a great ending, by the way. How great was that? Maybe Aunt May makes it for him. Then again, nothing in the movie has suggested to us that Aunt May is a master designer seamstress. My mom's pretty great. My mom could not have made me that Spider-Man suit. But it's certainly a possibility. It's a good way, because you're right. A lot of us forget that Aunt May now knows who Spider-Man is. Aunt May knows that Peter is Spider-Man now. And that ending just makes me grin when I think about it. It was so great. Czech Bensa writes, hey, John, French-Canadian fellow here. Bonjour, ça va? Thanks for the great show. Been watching since Jeremy John shared you back at AMC saying he was good on jump cuts. Oh yeah, I remember that. What's the funny thing? A lot of people back then thought I was trashing on John's because I'm not a fan of the jump cut style. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind cuts, but the jump cut style, there's a difference between cuts and jump cuts. The jump cuts are these guys like Jeremy who say 3 words, edit, 3 words, edit, 4 words, edit, 2 words, edit, and every one sentence can be broken into 5 different edits, right? Then there's cuts where you talk for 20 to 30 seconds and then an edit. Then you talk for another minute, then an edit, then another 25 seconds, an edit. Like, I didn't mind editing, but it was the jump cut. And for a long time, YouTube was starting to become nothing but jump cuts, which was frustrating to me, because to me that says you don't know how to string together your thoughts. You don't know how to communicate. So you have to do jump. But at the time, so everybody thought I was trashing on Jeremy Jahns. But I said at the time, except this one guy. And at the time, I had never spoken to, never met, didn't know anything about Jeremy Jahns at the time. But I said, except there's this one guy whose name is Jeremy Jahns, who does it like he does it great. And he uses it as a tool in how he does his edits and his cuts. I said 99% of people out there, it's just laziness, and it's because they don't know how to actually be a communicator. But there's this one guy who actually uses it as an art and like does it really, really well. And him doing it is a different story. So that's actually how Jeremy and I had our first conversations with each other, was over that, because I think he reached out to me, I think after that, saying, hey, man, thanks for the kind words. But it was funny because a lot of people wrote to him saying, did you hear this John Campea guy's trashing on you? And then he watched it and was like, what are you talking about? He's actually saying I'm the best in the world at this. So it was an interesting little thing. But yeah, I do see a difference between cutting and jump cutting. And the one guy who does it really, probably better than anybody's ever done it before, is Jeremy Jahns. Like he's taken it and made it an art of communication, and he does it super effectively, like far better than anybody else I've ever seen do it. Brandon Martin writes, Tom Hooper, Cats, don't have them sing live. I am not quite sure. Oh, if you're talking about Les Mis, because in Les Mis, he had everybody sing live. I don't know, man. That worked pretty well in Les Mis. It won Anne Hathaway her Academy Award. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that too. Good. That's a deep cut, Brandon. That's a deep cut. I'm impressed you thought about that to decide to bring it up. Stephen Richards writes, have you seen British TV comedy Blackadder? No. It's funny because it was brought up the other day, and people were talking about Hugh Laurie. And I've seen clips, but I've never sat down and watched the show. And this is funny that you mentioned it, because a lot of people brought that up before. Joven St. Louis writes, with the new West Side Story having actual Hispanic actors and starring a great actor like Ansel Elgort, do you think it will be a huge box office hit? Hard to say. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not ready to call Ansel Elgort a great actor. I'm not saying he's not. But the body of work I've seen from Ansel, while he's been in some great movies, I am not prepared, and while he's done solid, I'm not prepared to say Elgort's a great actor. I'm not trashing on him. I'm not saying the contrary. I'm saying I'm not willing to put that tag on him yet. I need to see much, much more from him to convince me that he's a great actor. We'll see. It can be a big box office hit, but it's an old musical, so I don't know. Will it kind of fizzle? Or will it pull like a Greatest Showman that just people keep going back to see again and again and again? I mean, it's Spielberg doing it, so who knows? I'm going to be very curious to see what it does. It's a conundrum, man. It's a conundrum. Kylo Ren and Stimpy. Guys, I've gone way over time. I'm just going to rush now through these last few ones. Kylo Ren and Stimpy. I like that. Don't press the big red button. But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs. but Black Dynamite, I sell drugs to the community. That line was so great. The beauty of that line was the timing of it. He's meeting with the gang and he's like, and no more selling drugs to the community. But Black Panther, I sell drugs to the community. It's the timing of it that kill it. God, I want a new Black Dynamite movie. Did I say Black Panther? I want a new Black Dynamite. There's a crossover you should have. Black Panther and Black Dynamite. Dynamite. Black Panther and Black Dynamite together on the screen. Make it happen and print your own money. Let's see. Santez Hernandez Henderson writes, I'll be happy to have Ben gone, not because of his acting, but because of his lack of enthusiasm. If you don't want to do the movie or role, just go. Look, I think, you guys know what I think. I think there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that killed his enthusiasm. That may or may not be his fault. I think there's a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes in the relationship and what went down with the Batman character that killed his enthusiasm. But I don't think you're going to find a lot of people that disagree with you on that, Santez. I mean, look, you're going into Justice League. Look, I love Ben Affleck. I've been on the Ben Affleck train for years. I was the only guy, it feels like, I was the only guy in the world going, Ben Affleck as Batman is an awesome casting when everybody else was laughing at it. I love Ben Affleck. But I will say, as a fan of Affleck, dude, you're trying to promote your movie. Saying things like, I'm looking for a way to get out of the character. No, I don't know that I want to play him, past this movie. That's not helping promote your movie. Just lie. Smile. Say, do what you did at Comic-Con last year when you lied and said the Hollywood Reporter story about you leaving Batman was wrong. Remember when you did that? Do that again until at least the movie comes out. Do that until at least the movie comes out. Dude, you're being paid pretty well to promote this movie. Promote the movie. Anyway, I was a little bit disappointed in that. I will admit, as a huge fan and supporter of Ben Affleck, that was a bit disappointing. But who knows how much garbage he was trying to deal with behind the scenes. We just don't know. Robert Perez writes, like the new intro. Congratulations. Thank you very much. I'm kind of happy with the intro too. We might tweak with it a little bit, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. I thought I'd just share it today just for fun. Marcus Robert Johnson writes, would you rather have DC rebooted by Marvel Studios or have the DC main heroes, Justice League, go to the Netflix like Daredevil and Punisher have? Thank you. Neither. Honestly, no, I do not want DC rebooted by Marvel. I like there being, I already don't like the fact that X-Men are going back to Marvel. I love Marvel, but I also like having some diversity in the flavor of the superhero movies. No, Superman and Batman should be on the big screen. Superman and Batman should be on the big screen. That's where they should be. And so I'll take a pass on that. Interesting question. It's a conundrum you present, but I do not want DC rebooted by Marvel, and I don't want them going to Netflix. Superman and Batman should be on the big screen. That's where they should be. Marcus follows up. Mystery Men 2 or Watchmen reboot? Oh, easy. Mystery Men. I'm not a big fan of the Watchmen. I love the Watchmen comic, but I'm not a big fan of the Watchmen movie. But Mystery Men I love, so damn right, sign me up for Mystery Men. Hazento writes, what if Magneto was a prisoner at a North Korean concentration camp? Hey, look, that can work too. That can work too. I prefer the one just because, it makes sense because, like Magneto is based off of Malcolm X. So having his origin story tied to that era seems to make more sense to me, but that's certainly one that could also work. Marcus follows up, says, seen Pandorum, one of my favorites that needs a sequel. Which one was Pandorum again? I cannot remember off the top of my head which one that is. Is that the one with Ben Foster? I'll find out in a second here. It is. It's the one with Ben Foster, Dennis Quaid. I did not like it. I didn't like it. I love Ben Foster, so I was really excited about that. And it's a sci-fi kind of, but I remember not liking it at all. I didn't enjoy it. But that is the beautiful thing, man, about the subjectivity of movies. Is that I can watch a movie and not like it, and you can watch the exact same movie, and it means a lot more to you, and it had a different impact on you than it did on me. So that's awesome. Anybody, and I forgot, Norman Reedus was in that movie. Anybody that likes a movie with Ben Foster is good in my book. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work for me. It's been 9 years since I've seen it, but yeah, I just remember not liking it very much. Let's see. Bishop Boyle writes, do you think book adaptations are likely for a small author these days? I've just published my first book in my trilogy, Legends of Amir, and would love to see it on the big screen one day. Happy to send you a free copy. Well, that won't be necessary. Look, studios are always looking for something that could make a great movie. They're always looking for ideas. They're always looking for what would make a great movie. But here's also the truth. You need to get, if you think your book can be made into a movie, you need to get a literary agent. You have to get a literary agent, and that's hard. Because studios do not accept unsolicited story ideas. They can't. Because if studios accepted unsolicited story ideas, then 5 years from now, if they make a movie that is kind of similar to an idea you sent, then you jump up and sue them. So that's why they tell people, folks, do not send us, we do not accept story ideas. You cannot send them to us. They only take meetings with literary, like agents that they know and trust and material they go out and hunt for. So the first step is for you to get yourself a literary agent. And that's not easy, man. It's not easy. It's hard. I never actually tried, but I remember when I was looking at it, it was like, woo, this looks like it'd be nearly impossible. But it's tough. But if you're interested in maybe pursuing the idea of getting a story you did to a studio, the first step is find a Los Angeles or New York based literary agent and see where it goes from there. That's your first step. And if you don't get one of those, then you're dead in the water. But if you do, it opens up some possibilities. So that's the best recommendation I have. Let's see. Mohammed Said writes, binged Fargo on Hulu, and it was so good. I just learned about the film. Do you recommend? Oh, the film Fargo? Yeah, I've never really taken the time to check out the show, although I've heard nothing but amazing things about Fargo. Fargo was a revelation of a movie. It really was. And I cannot remember how many Academy Awards it won. It came out like the 90s. It's really also the movie that kind of introduced most of us. I am on the movie one. Good. Where's the awards? Awards. Here we go. How many? I know it won at least for Best Actress for Frances McDormand. And yes, there it is. It won Best Screenplay by the Coen Brothers and Best Actress for Frances McDormand. It was nominated for Best Picture. William H. Macy got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Coen got nominated for Best Director. It was Roger Deakins was a cinematographer. He got nominated for Best that, and it was also nominated for Best Editing. But it's really the film that introduced a lot of us to Frances McDormand. And it's wonderful. And the wood chipper scene is like iconic now. Absolutely iconic. Other movies and TV shows have tried wood chipper scenes. None of them have the impact to me that Fargo does. Anyway, so there's that. All right, final question of the day. Comes to us from Trinity Film, who writes, thoughts on BBC Band of Brothers, like Saving Private Ryan, the TV show, 10 out of 10, never seen it. So I can't give any opinion on that, but I've never heard anything but remarkable, insanely good things about it, but not something that I've seen. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this way overtime episode of the John Campea Show. But like I said, I'm trying to make sure I get through all the questions right now. That will do it for now. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. Don't forget the new show. It's not a new show. The new studio. We're going to start the show from the new studio on Friday. But don't forget, between now and then, we still got the show, the John Campea Show, here every morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you join us again tomorrow. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.